We founded ArenaNet to innovate, so Guild Wars 2 is our opportunity to question everything, to make a game that defies existing conventions. If you love MMOs, you'll want to check out Guild Wars 2, and if you hate MMOs, you'll really want to check out Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 takes everything you love about Guild Wars 1 and puts it into a persistent world. It's got more active combat, a fully branching, personalized storyline, a new event system to get people playing together, and still no monthly fees.
The look of Guild Wars 2 is stylized. We're going for a painterly, illustrated aesthetic. Everything in our world feels handcrafted and artisanal. We treat our environments as if they are characters themselves.
When you look at the art in our game, you say, wow, that's visually stunning. I've never seen anything like that before. And then when you play the combat in our game, you say, wow, that's incredible. I've never seen anything like that. In most games, you go out and you have really fun tasks occasionally that you get to do. And the rest of the game is this boring grind to get to the fun stuff. I swung a sword. I swung a sword again. Hey, I swung it again. That's great. We just don't want players to grind in Guild Wars 2. No one enjoys that. No one finds it fun. We want to change the way that people view combat.
As a structure, the MMO has lost the ability to make the player feel like a hero. Everybody around you is doing the same thing you're doing. The boss you just killed respawns 10 minutes later. It doesn't care that I'm there.
You'll get quest text that tells you, I'm being attacked by these horrible things, and it's not actually happening. In the game world, these horrible centaurs are standing around in a field, and you get a quest step that says, go kill 10 centaurs. We don't think that's okay. You see what's happening. You see centaurs running to the trading post, knocking the walls down, burning and killing the merchants.
We do not want to build the same MMO everyone else is building. And in Guild Wars 2, it's your world. It's your story. You affect things around you in a very permanent way.
Cause and effect. A single decision made by a player cascades out in a chain of events.
You're meeting new people whom you will then see again. You're rescuing a village that will stay rescued, who then remember you. The most important thing in any game should be the player. We have built a game for them.
Hello, Comic-Con San Diego. So, welcome to the, I guess it's the second annual Guild Wars 2 panel here at Comic-Con. Who here was here for the last one, last year? Oh, about a third of the room. Thank you very much. You guys, a lot of you filled up the room last year, so we asked Comic-Con for a bigger room. Looks like we're gonna have to ask for an even bigger room next year. It is my pleasure to bring folks from the wait for us to give that sound. It's meant to be ambient. No, not the lights, the sound. There we go. All right, that works. It's my pleasure to introduce and MC the panel for today. My name is Chris Lai. I'm the head of marketing for Guild Wars 2. And I'm going to go ahead and start by allowing each of our distinguished guests to introduce themselves, starting with Colin Johansson from the design team.
I'm Colin Johansson. I'm the lead content designer on Guild Wars 2.
And I'm Leah Rivera. Sorry. I'm Leah Rivera. I work in content design as well, and I work on dynamic events and personal story.
My name is Bobby Stein. I'm the lead writer for Guild Wars 2.
My name is Kristen Perry. I'm character artist for Guild Wars 2.
And I'm Keikai Kotaki, lead concept artist on Guild Wars 2.
All right, thank you, Keikai. So when we were, well, let's get a hand of applause, guys. Thank you. So when we were talking to Comic-Con about this year's panel, we decided to make it more about social gaming. There's a number of areas where Guild Wars 2 innovates. Those of you who've been following the game are probably really familiar with all the things that we're trying to do. But definitely when it comes to an MMO, a big part of what makes an MMO rewarding is the social experience. To talk about that today, Colin Johansson is going to talk about that at a high level and then ask some of the folks on the panel to drill down.
All right, so many of you are probably familiar with Guild Wars 1 and familiar with Guild Wars 2. Some of you may not be, so I want to just take a minute and talk about kind of 3 high-level questions that we get asked all the time about Guild Wars 2. So the first question we always get asked is Guild Wars 2 a highly instanced game like Guild Wars 1 is? And the answer is no. Guild Wars 2 is a giant, open, massive MMO. There are hundreds and thousands of players playing together in maps in the game. It is a true MMO. The second question we get asked a lot is, can you actually jump in Guild Wars 2? Can you swim? Do you run into those invisible boundaries that were in Guild Wars 1? And the answer is yes. Guild Wars 2 is a full 3D axis. You can jump, you can dodge out of the way of attacks, you can roll, you can swim underwater and discover huge oceans in our game. And there's massive amounts of content that is discoverable through all of those things. And the last question we get asked a lot is, how do I pay for this game? And the answer is, you buy it once, you play it for free forever. There is absolutely no monthly fees. So with all that being said, let's talk a little bit about the social aspects of Guild Wars 2 and how we're trying to innovate in those areas. So when we sat down to start working on designing Guild Wars 2, one of the questions that we all asked ourselves was, we have these giant MMO worlds that people have built. There are millions of players playing together, and there are core systems in those games that make people not want to be around other players in the game. An example in a traditional MMO would be you're doing a quest, and the game's telling you, hey, you need to kill 10 trolls. And you're killing trolls, and another player comes running up, and they start attacking the trolls, and they're stealing the trolls from you. And you look at that guy, you're like, oh, I don't want this guy around me, they're ruining my experience. That's not the point of MMOs. You're playing these giant online games together so you can play with other people, not have them ruin your experience. You know, somebody comes running out of nowhere and they kill you when you're in the middle of trying to do a quest. That completely ruins the experience for you. These game worlds should be about people coming together and building communities and playing together, and that's what we've designed our game about. So some of the things that we've done to help support that, when you're attacking a creature in Guild Wars 2 and another player comes up and helps you kill that creature, whether you're in a group or not, everybody gets experience, everybody gets loot rolls for it, so that other players are always helping you when you're playing the game, and you're always excited to see other players that are around you. So that's one really core concept to our game, to be able to support players playing together. Another thing is all players can res in our game. Every single character in the game can run up, kneel down, and give downed players back health to pop them back up to life. And you get rewarded for doing so, so players are encouraged to help one another. So if you run into people and you're fighting around them and you go down, other people can run up and res you, and you create these kind of ad hoc groups that form where people become friends and they end up helping each other because they're incentivized to do so, and because the game rewards you for doing it. So those are some of the core things that are just designed across the game to support that social aspect. Another thing is the way that we approach combat in general in Guild Wars 2. The so-called holy trinity of your DPS, your tank, and your healer is the basic combat design and balance of just about every MMO that's been made for the last 10 years or so. And we took a look at that and we said, hey, it works in some areas, but there are some certain areas where it completely fails. And one of the problems with that is, and I'm sure many of you who played MMOs have experienced this, you've got 7 people in your group and you need one more person and you need a healer. You're like, man, we need that healer to finish this party off. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. And everybody's looking around and you got one buddy online and he's like, God, I hate playing a healer. I don't want to play a healer. I got my warrior, I want to use my warrior. Like, no, dude, you got to do the healer if we're going to do this. There's nothing fun about that. You should be able to make the character that you want to make, you should be able to play the game that you want to play, and you should be able to play together without having people stuck in specific roles. We've all had moments where we've sat around for 40 minutes or an hour waiting to form a group so we can actually play something. We call that waiting to have fun at ArenaNet. We would rather you be having fun. So we've designed our combat system so that there is no dedicated healers in Guild Wars 2. There is no targeting other players to put heals directly on them. Every character class has their own healing skill that they can use so that they are somewhat self-sufficient on their own. And then there are a number of support classes that provide healing abilities that work in AoE areas around you or create areas on the ground where you can actually see that there are healing pools and giant showers of water coming out that people can run into so they get healed. So that process becomes really visceral, where characters can work together by seeing what's going on the screen. Instead of watching all the little UI bars and health bars moving around, they're actually watching what other players are doing and working together. We've designed cross-class combos. So an elementalist can put down a firewall and a ranger can shoot arrows through that firewall. The arrows will catch on fire and any target they hit lights on fire. You can put a poison cloud down and people can run inside the poison cloud and attack out of it, and all their attacks pick up that poison. And all of this is very easy to see and understand in the world to encourage this social gaming experience where people want to be around other players and they're incentivized to do so and they can work together without even having to talk. And what we found is when you incentivize players to do this, they end up actually talking more and they become friends and they end up forming groups. And we've seen just on the game show floor, even here at Comic-Con this weekend, people will be roaming around and all of a sudden they'll run into another player and they start moving with them. And then a third player picks up and they all start going together. And all of a sudden they start playing content together. And this is just in the period of 40 minutes on a trade show floor where literally you can't hear anything. You can't even hear yourself talk. And these groups are forming up just naturally like that. And there's something really cool about that, and that's a huge part of the social experience for us. I talked a little bit about removing the Holy Trinity from the game, and one of the things that we've done to help support that is characters, just about all the professions in the game, can swap weapon sets when they're in combat. So for example, a warrior can be using 2 axes, and in the middle of combat, they can swap to a longbow, and there's suddenly a character who is able to be really capable at range. And what happens is instead of characters being locked into a specific role, you're able to actually change roles in combat and change the function that you have based on what the things you're fighting against are doing. So combat becomes very reactive. It becomes very almost instinctual, where something happens and then you're reacting to it and you're changing your gameplay style instead of a traditional MMO where you have one gameplay style and that is the only thing you can do. You are a warrior, this is what you do, you tank. Instead, you can be up there and you can be fighting in the front lines. You roll out of there, your buddy jumps up front and they start taking things in, and everybody's moving back and forth and dynamically working together to take advantage of the fact that you're not stuck in one specific role. It also allows you to make the choice when you create a character. You don't have to ask yourself, do I want to be a healer? Do I want to be a DPS? Do I want to be a tank? You can ask yourself, do I want to be a warrior? Do I want to be a ranger? What is the trope that I want to fill? What character do I really love? And then when you play that character, you can actually play that character however you want. You can go and you can be a tank for a while, and then you can swap over and you can start playing at range. You can play the way that you feel like playing, using the class that you really love, rather than having the class that you really love be hamstrung into one very specific category, and that's all it can do. So from a high-level design perspective, that's some of the stuff that we're doing with combat and with the basic game mechanics to support social activities in the game. So next I'm going to hand it over to Leah, and she's going to tell you a little bit about our dynamic event system and personal story system and how those take advantage of some of our social gaming designs as well.
So, to help encourage people to get together and to get the spirit of cooperation in the game, we put the dynamic event system in place where it encourages players to get together and play, of course. Sorry. And to do this, they have scaling events, of course, and that helps by getting the players together in an area and not penalizing them for having many players in the space. Because in some games you have like X number of trolls, you know? And if you have 20 players going on for those trolls, then it's not as fun. But if you have the trolls scaling, like we do in our events, then you're going to have enough trolls for all those players. And no one's going to be competing for those resources. Also, the dynamic events have a tiered reward system in which we have gold, silver, and bronze rewards, and they're based on thresholds instead of a competitive like scale. So if you do enough to get that gold reward, you're going to get the reward you've earned. You're not going to be competing with that guy for gold. Everyone can get that if they do enough work in the event and if they participate. We also have carried this over into our personal story a bit by allowing you to bring your friends into your personal story, and you can go see theirs as well. So you can experience their story and experience what they're seeing in the game, and they can see yours as well. And those also scale just like the dynamic events. So it's never going to become super easy if you want to bring your 4 friends into your story with you. It'll still be a nice experience for all of you.
Thank you, Lear.
So in a traditional MMO setting, really the way that you would absorb a lot of your information was by walking up to a stationary NPC, clicking on them, getting a big wall of text that tried really hard to get you emotionally invested in what was going on, but in reality, as we said before, there's nothing going on around you. You're not really hearing or seeing anything different. What we found that, especially with dynamic events, you want to actually be in the moment. If you're going to see everything happening, you need to hear it as well. So what we've done is we've worked hard with the content designers to figure out what do players need to hear in order to get emotionally invested and also know what's going on. So we would, if an event's going on, you can see a town burning. As you get closer to it, you'll actually see a little girl run up to you, and she'll be screaming, "Hey, we're under attack. We need your help. Come get us." And you'll follow her, and actually you'll get involved in the event because these people are actually reaching out to you. If you're nearby and they want your help, they're going to tell you about it. When you get into the event, you'll actually be fighting alongside people who are, fighting for their lives, and they're going to tell you that. They're going to tell you what you need to do. If their homes are burning, they're going to say, "Hey, grab a bucket and put out that fire. Come over here and, get me up. I'm down." So what we're trying to do is just basically immerse you in the moment rather than force you to click on boxes and read things. Not that reading is bad, but really, you're there to exist and thrive in a virtual world with people. If you're standing around reading a lot of things, that's not necessarily conducive to playing with your friends because then everybody's just sitting around reading stuff. So, when you hear these things kick off, anybody who's nearby is going to hear what they're talking about. So your friends, you stick in a group, you run around in an ad hoc group, you're going to hear this stuff. We've also decided to keep things short and to the point. The last thing we want is people to skip through cinematics or to just run away when a character is talking to you. We figured that, there's nothing wrong with having long-winded dialogue, but we kind of got tired of it and figured it wasn't really working in service of the player, and people had to struggle to really become emotionally invested in that kind of stuff. So we said, hey, it's 250 years later. We want, the cultures to evolve. Maybe they're going to speak a little bit differently. They're probably going to speak in ways that are a little bit more familiar to our players. And then we're going to hire professional voice actors to actually bring them to life. So all those things combined together should, immerse you in the moment and keep you playing with your friends because you don't need to stop and, read a book to figure out what's going on.
Thank you, Bobby.
Just to give you a bit of an overview for character customization in Guild Wars 2, I know everybody is very interested, many people are very interested in how their avatar looks, how their how their character actually is presented to the rest of the world, how they want to be able to play what they want to play and look what they want to look like. And for that, we have changed it a little bit different from Guild Wars 1, which was strictly you had a particular look that would go with the profession. This time, we've also wanted to say that, you can have a little bit more freedom than that. We have reorganized the armor system to be in weight classes. So we have lightweight armor, which is for more of the caster sort of professions. We have medium armor, which is more for your more ranger type professions. And then you would have, of course, the heavy, which would be the plate armor and so forth. And there are many professions to each weight class. So within your weight class, you can mix and match whatever you are. If you happen to have really loved the Elementalist, how it played in Guild Wars 1, but you wanted to kind of, look like the monk of Guild Wars 1, which it wasn't as flamboyant of a costume, you can do that now if it's part of your weight class. So you have a lot more options, you have a lot more mixing and matching. And in addition to that, we've also really dramatically expanded the die system. How many of you have played any of the demoed? Have you tried out that die system yet? Awesome. Definitely go try and take a look at it. Instead of just one area of masking that would be onto the armor, we have up to 3 layers of dyeing for each piece, if it's required for that piece. If you have just like a plain little leather gloves, that might not need to have 3 different dye colors on it, but if you have a fully decked out coat, the lapel can dye one color, the base of the coat can dye another. If it has some sort of a detail that's really cool, yes, you can choose whatever color you want for that too. And so we're really trying to expand it and give you guys the creative freedom for your characters and however you want to present yourself, however you want to play, and however you want to present your story.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, so we're going to take just a couple of questions from Twitter that were fed to us over the last few days, and then we'll open it up to the floor. If you're interested in asking a few questions, there is a microphone in the middle of the room if you want to start getting in line for those. Our first question is for the head of our concept team, Keikai Kotaki. It's a very simple question from one of our fans, which is, what is it like being the head of the ArenaNet concept team?
Oh, okay, Chris. Being a head, being a lead concept artist, being any sort of lead, it's basically a lot of it involves managerial tasks. Me being the personal leader of my team, I have to watch out for my guys and basically make sure they're on task, making sure they have enough work to do, and making sure overall the entire team is going towards the goal of making like Guild Wars 2 look like the best video game out there. So just like taking a personal hand and making sure that each person is working on, making sure it looks good, making sure it's working with the design, and also that's with the team. Also being a lead it involves me interacting with a lot of other team leads on the other professions, such as talking to the animation guys, talking to a lot of the character guys, talking especially towards the environment, making sure each concept is going to its rightful place and making sure everybody understands. Needs and concerns are brought up. Things have to change all the time. Designs that could be better, or designs that don't really work. Like we have lots of times we have concepts that are just a little bit too crazy, and we just can't do that in the game. So we
don't put those in the game?
What?
I thought we did put those in the game. I'm kidding.
Well,
only half of them.
Only half of them. It's basically it's kind of like throwing headaches at the other teams. It's like, okay, we do this, awesome. Like, yeah, you guys make it work.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. It's always like, I don't know, you're the baller. But so there's also that, and also just being the face of my team is, and actually presenting my artwork and putting myself out there so that we can represent the artistic values that we want to present to the world. So.
All right, thank you, Keikai. All right, our next question from Twitter is actually for Kristen Perry. As some of you may know, Kristen Perry has been largely responsible for a conceptual redesign of the Sylvari race, which we have not yet revealed, but She's working on it. But what we can talk about, I think, is some of the design imperatives that went into the redesign. So the question really is, what were the main design imperatives that we were considering with the Sylvari redesign? Go for it, Kristen.
Hi. Well, the Sylvari actually was quite the challenge because, as you know, the lore is very rich and really describes a plant race that is very in tune with nature, can augment nature, and is very unique. It's a young race. It doesn't. It's only the oldest of the race is like 25 years old. So. This has a lot of new dynamics with it for the lore, and the designs that we've had so far really needed to tie into that and be in tune. So, but in general, in looking at such a description of a race, a lot of people had two very distinct notions of it. On one side, you had those who thought it was going to be more like a fey elf, and very high elf, very elegant, very ageless and timeless, which is a little difficult when you're only 25 years old. The other side, they actually wanted a walking, talking tree that was a little bit more onto the creature side. And overall, everyone kind of agreed we wanted somewhere in between, but how do you marry two very distinctive points of view into one image? And so that was some of the things that I really had to juggle through. And I think I managed to get something that was a very good compromise for both sides, and to be able to attract those who want something of a beautiful, beautiful, elegant race with a lot of different kinds of details, a lot of definition, a lot of character to them, but also be able to feel like, you can stand next to a Norn and be a part of the battle. You can contribute. You're actually, tough enough to be able to be part of the war. And so, yes, they are a plant people. They are beautiful. They are unusual. They are unique. And they are definitely unique to Guild Wars. And so, yes, the new design does reflect this. But for those of you who wanted elves and for those of you who wanted Ents, I hope there's something for both of you in there.
Thank you, Kristen. And wasn't there a little bit of a reveal you wanted to provide?
Yeah, I got two things to say. One, the Sylvari will be playable at GamesCon and PAX, playable race. And two, Sylvari Week, complete with the articles I'm going to write, the long in-depth articles and many, many more things to read about on the blog. That is going to be before GamesCon.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Okay, just a couple of short questions, and then we can open it up to the floor. But before I open up to the floor, I do want to make sure you reserve your question for something that we are going to be able to answer. So I will answer two of the most frequently asked questions, which is, when are we going into beta, and when are we releasing? We have not announced when we are going into beta. We have said that we will go into closed beta later this year, based on the feedback from closed beta and then open beta. That will help us determine our release date. So if that was going to be one of your questions and you're in line, you may want to rethink what your question will be. All right, so first question, I believe this is for someone on the design team. Is your home instance defined by your race? Can my Char have a home among the Asura? Who wants to take this one?
Sure, yeah. Well, your home instance will be defined by your race, as in it will be in your racial city. And it will also be, so I guess that's about it, isn't it?
The home instance, for those who are not familiar, is if you're playing through your personal story, which is sort of like the story of your character in the world. Your character has a home instance, which is either a lab if you're an Asura, or it's a part of a giant tree if you're a Sylvari. It's a big city block if you're a human, and that area actually changes based on the things that you've done in the game. So, for example, if you've saved your best friend from bandits, he actually moves into your home district, and he'll be there forever, and he'll have dialogue that changes and reflects the things that you've done through the game. If you're unable to save him and he dies, there'll actually be a gravestone to remember him that's in your home instance forever, and people will come there and drop flowers down and everything. All the things that you do in the game will be reflected in that home instance, and you can bring your friends there and show them your home instance, and you can go and see theirs. Even if you are characters of the exact same race, you can have completely different home instances based on the actions you've done in the game and the personal story that you've experienced.
Okay. Next question. I believe this is probably for Colin, although it's basically any of the designers. Do dynamic events have a state in which they will eventually lock into without player interaction, or will the event path reverse itself?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's one we get asked all the time. So dynamic event chains are just that. They are chains. They move it back and forth along a chain. And when they get to the end of a chain, they will stay there until players come along and are able to complete the event and push it in a different direction. It's important to note that those have persistent effect on the world, so they will last until somebody comes along to do something about it. That's a really big thing to keep in mind. So I'll give an example event chain. You could, for example, we always love to talk about centaurs attacking towns. You could have an army of centaurs in an event that marches into an attack a town. And an event kicks off to defend that town. If players fail to defend the town, the centaurs are going to take it over. They're going to kill all the merchants in there, they're going to hold the town captive, and a new event is going to kick off to liberate that town. That event will stay active until players come to free the town. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, it depends on when the players all band together and go do it, but it persistently lasts in the game, and it stays at that endpoint until players come along, save the town, and the event chain heads in a different direction. At that point, once the town is safe, all these new events come available, where you can lead a counterattack against the centaurs, you can rescue the prisoners from the centaur camp that were taken when the town was held captive. You can go and hunt down the centaur leaders and take them out, and you push that event chain in a different direction that everybody gets to participate in, and eventually the centaurs will round back up again and they'll launch an attack on the town again, and based on the outcome of that, the event chain will move back and forth. But event chains do have an endpoint, and they stay there until the players come and do them. The event chain will never just automatically reset on you at the end of its chain. It's really important to us that the world feel like everything that happens and it has meaning and has consequence. And so when something happens in the game, it's going to stay that way until people come to do something about it.
All right. Well, I think with that, we can start opening it up to the floor. First question.
Will we be able to explore the Crystal Desert or any sort of desert area in the beginning or initially?
Who wants to take that one?
Sure. The Crystal Desert area will not be included on the initial release of Guild Wars 2. However, you will see some hints towards that region, and you will be on the borders of it, but you will not be able to go in there on the initial release.
Thank you.
All right. Next question.
Hi, I guess my question is for Christian. With all the new races that we have coming in, what is the character creation going to be like in terms of hair, eye features, build, arms, structure like that?
Oh, well, yes, we are definitely going to have a lot of options for character creation. I mean, for the Char alone, you would definitely have different horn choices. With those come the ears also. Fur patterns, you'd be able to dye your fur one color, and the pattern, if you wanted to be like a Bengal tiger, or if you wanted something that was a little bit more spotty and so forth, you would definitely be able to have different kinds of facial features and so forth. And we are going to definitely have customization sliders, so that within that facial structure yourself, you'd be able to make that nose broader or more narrow and so forth. And we're going to make sure that aesthetically there are limits to where you can take those features. But yes, we're definitely going to have a fully robust character creation system. So you should be able to create the character that you want to create.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem.
All right, next question.
My question is, you mentioned that this game is a social game more than the first one. Is the chat system going to be different than the first game? Or is it still going to have chat channels, or is it a completely different system entirely?
So we do have forms of chat channels. They operate a little bit more like what you would find in a true MMO like Guild Wars 2 is going to be, where you're able to talk to people who are in your map and talk to people who are in your guild. So there are broader ranges of the people that you're able to talk to facilitate that social gaming. We haven't finalized all the details on how the chat system will work, and that's something we'll go into as we go a little bit further down the road. A lot of that stuff that we'll develop more as we're doing the closed beta to facilitate all those players working together. But we do recognize that there are unique needs for the chat system that come out of making a truly persistent MMO, and we need to have a really robust chat system to be able to support that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question.
I was curious as to how many different types and variations of the dynamic events that there are, because you were talking about how you always talk about the centaur attacking the town and whatnot. And so I was
our
curious,
favorite.
Yeah.
So we go to that well all the time because it's a really easy one for people who don't know about the game to understand. I mean, to be honest, one of the biggest struggles we have with Guild Wars 2 when we're trying to explain the system that we're doing is we tell people used to traditional MMOs, hey, our game's not going to have traditional quests. And their eyes get like this big and they're like, what? Why would you do that? And we have to try to explain what a dynamic event is and how that affects the world and how all of that changes the game.
And so we have to use really clean, easy to understand examples like that. For those of you who are big fans who've heard us talk about events for a long time, I apologize. We have many other examples. So for example, I'll give you one right now, just to make up for that. There are over 1,500 unique dynamic events in the game. Each one of them is hand scripted to operate in a unique way. Almost all of them change the world in small ways up to massive ways. There are events as simple as there's a farmer whose field is full of rabbits, and the rabbits are devouring all his watermelons. And if you can get all the rabbits out of the field, the farmer opens up a shop where he sells you watermelons and lucky rabbit's feet. If you can't get all the rabbits out of the field, the shop's closed down, you walk up there and the stalls are all empty, and you talk to the merchant and he tells you, I don't have anything in stock right now. That's very simple world change. That's a small thing. Some world changes are as large as giant snowstorms will roll through a map and change the landscape of some of the terrain and kick off new events as a result of events that had occurred. So one event chain that got put in the game recently, to give you an example of some of the scope of the dynamic event chains, is one that involves raiding a giant pirate base. And in this pirate base, there's a main fortress in the back that you're trying to get into. And it has two big cliffs up on the right and on the left above where this pirate base is and where the entrance is, and a little bay that the pirates operate out of. And you get a dynamic event to go in and take out the cannons that are up on the top right tower. And when you take those down, you get another event to take out the left cannons. And so you're basically taking out one guard tower and you're taking out a second guard tower. And at that point, you've cleared the path for the bay. And a giant ship from Lion's Arch sails into the bay, pulls up, unloads a huge battery of cannons and starts unloading on all the pirates on the beach and blowing the door open. And you get a new event to defend this giant ship and keep it alive long enough to blow the door open to get in the pirate base. If you're able to do that, the door is blasted open and you get a new event to raid the pirate base and kill the admiral of the pirates who's inside. And all of this is part of a hand-scripted chain that has this huge, like 80-foot-long boat that sails in, unleashes cannons everywhere. These dynamic events are not like, hey, there's 10 creatures standing around and you kill them and then the next event begins. This stuff is very scripted. All of them tell a story. All of them are a very integral part of the world, and they have a ton of work that goes into them. And the variation between each one is really tremendous. So this is a really big part of our game, and where a ton of our work is going into right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi. We already know that there's going to be difficulty scaling, and that if a level 80 player wants to go back into a level 20 area, you're going to scale the 80 back down. But I don't think you've mentioned on how this might work in dungeons or stuff like that. You have the explorable version, but if a level 80 wants to do like a level 20 dungeon, is it going to scale up for them or scale down for them, or the reward's going to be viable?
Yeah, another good question. So all the dungeons in the game have level caps on that dungeon. That's like the max level range for it that is allowable. And so, for example, the Ascalon Catacombs is the one dungeon we've talked about so far. And the story version of that dungeon is, I believe, level 30, and the repeatable or explorable version is level 35. Each of those dungeons has a cap above that's sort of the maximum level your character's allowed to be in that dungeon. So if you're level 80 and you come back to the level 30 story dungeon, the game's gonna basically sidekick you down to be like level, 3 or 4 levels above the dungeon. So it's still entertaining for you. It'll certainly be much easier than if you are the exact level of the dungeon, but we want to be able to have that as an opportunity so you can actually go back and replay all the dungeons in the game and have fun and be able to enjoy those at any level. So all the dungeons will have a max cap that it sets you back down to if you go back to those at a higher level.
All right, next question.
Hey, I noticed that in the second game you have stat points as you level up to level up your stats. Are you able to reassign those stats like in the first game with skill points? Because I make mistakes all the time when I put it in, so I'd like to reverse that maybe.
You will be able to. We just don't know if you want to say that.
Yeah, we don't want people to feel like they're gonna, if they make a mistake in how they're speccing their character out, that they can't back out of it. So we're gonna have some system in place to allow you to respec. We just haven't really finalized and aren't really ready to talk about it in depth yet, but you'll be able to do something about it.
Hey, how's it going? My question more is going toward costume, for your character. I know you're saying that we have dyes to be able to color our gear. How about let's say I like the starting gear really well and I got this cool end game gear that I don't really like the way it looks. Am I still able to wear the level 1 gear because I think it looks cool?
we've talked about transmutation stones. So.
Yeah, there's definitely something that we really want in place for that, because yes, it's all about making sure that you have the look that you want to look like, but also be able to play the way you want to play. So yes, if you have an earlier look that is just, you wanted to get that like beggar outfit or something like that, and you desperately wanted to be this crazy drunken, ninja or something running around the world with top level stats, half naked. Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, cool. Thank you.
Hey, love your game. It's gonna be amazing. Can't wait.
I love your horns.
Thank you. They're really big. You've talked about world versus world PvP, and I was wondering how that's gonna work, like mechanically. Like, is it gonna be like a WoW-esque battleground that everyone goes into, or will it just happen, sort of like the dynamic event system within your realm? How is that gonna work?
So world versus world PvP is definitely not like the battlegrounds. World versus world is basically, it's your server matched up against 2 other servers in giant open world PvP. This is hundreds and thousands of people in a map together instead of 40. And the idea here is your server, all of you are banded together to try to take out and defeat these other 2 servers you're up against. Battles last for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, the team with the most points is the winning server, and they get benefits and bonuses that go to that server for a period of time to support what they've accomplished.
Cool. Thank you.
Y'all feeling that?
I'm feeling it. Where's that coming from? The next room?
Yeah. All right, so real quick, I'll add a couple more things about world versus world PvP, just to help clarify a little bit more about that. So for world versus world PvP, not only is it this giant open world PvP conquest system, it is also using our dynamic event system to help play into that. So there are a whole bunch of different locations in world versus world PvP that your server is trying to help take control over. There are huge castles that are going to take hundreds of players to take, and then there are much smaller objectives like mines and guard towers. There's small villages of like Quaggin and Ogre that you can win over. And when you take these locations, those are events to get those places for your side. When you hold them, those sides provide benefits to you. So for example, if you take the mining node and you hold the mine, you're gonna have events that for your server, it says escort the minecart, and the minecart's gonna go back to your keep, and the other 2 servers are gonna get an event that says destroy the minecart. And when the minecart makes it back to the keep, your server basically gets siege weapons that come available for them to use. So there's stuff for 1 or 2 people to do that are kind of like these side little events and escorts and stuff, and there's these larger scale battles that happen more in the middle with the huge keeps and everything. So really the idea there is that it's open to anybody. You can come in and find small stuff to do, or you can get involved in these huge battles. And you should feel like you could play that when you want to and do things in there just like you could in PvE. You can take your PvE character and jump into world versus world PvP, continue to level up there, then you can jump back into PvE. You can play all the way from level 1 to 80 in world versus world if you want to. It's totally up to you. So those are some of the high level details about world versus world. We'll go into a lot more detail about that down the road.
Okay. Next question.
All right, hi everyone. 2 quick questions. When are you gonna reveal the final class? And are you ever gonna make the commando a legitimate class like in the next?
I thought we did that with the engineer.
I want to see the commando. Screw the engineer.
So yeah, we're gonna reveal the next profession, right? No.
Is that not today?
Yeah, we know we have 1 profession left to reveal. It's a highly controversial one, lots of speculation. I think we can safely say we will reveal it before the end of the year. That's about all we can say on that one. As far as the commando goes, no immediate plans to implement.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have a selfish question. I'm one of the voice actors that has read your brilliant script, and I love working on the game. How do I get one of those cool shirts?
These cool shirts?
Yes.
You see this young lady here in the corner? She's the queen of merchandise. Come talk to her.
Cool.
I've made you very popular all of a sudden.
And I've got a lot of fans on my fan page who are eager for this game. And can I tell them now that I'm a Norn? Since you said
you may,
Norns
yes.
exist?
Absolutely.
I am a Norn.
Hey, give it up. This guy's fantastic.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm a player. I currently live in Mexico. I'm a Latin American player, and I play Guild Wars. I actually bought my copy here in San Diego. My question is there going to be a language pack that's specifically for Latin America? Because the language pack that was in Guild Wars is from European Spanish. So when you want to try to immerse to the game, it's kind of hard with a weird accent.
Okay, gotcha. Actually, what we have said publicly is, like, if you look at our website, we have committed to French and German definitely for localization, and we have not finalized our localization list. So obviously Spanish would be one of those things that we'd consider. So we haven't finalized exactly how we are going to do with work with Spanish, but we do know that Latin America is a big emerging market for video games, and so we are seriously looking at what we can do to support that.
All right, thank you very much.
You bet.
Hey, real quick before we take one more question, I want to take just a second. Hey, Carol, could you stand up for just a second? So Carol is dressed as Gwen from Guild Wars 1, awesome costume there. And I want to take just a second to give a quick shout out to Carol's organization, Gwen. It's Gaming World Entertainment Network. If you are a Guild Wars 1 player, on October 15th in Lion's Arch inside the game, they're going to be doing a cancer fundraiser. This is something they do every year. And we would love you guys to jump in and help them out and support their organization. These guys are fantastic. Give up for Carol.
Yep. All right, we have 5 minutes left, so just probably 2 or 3 questions left, depending on the length of the answer. So go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm a real big fan of the Char and the Norn, the whole lore thing. I was wondering, one-on-one in a fight, who would win?
So what, Ridlock or Air? What?
I really don't know.
Who's angrier at the time?
Yeah. It would depend on how drunk the Norn is.
Yes, good answer, good answer. All right, next question.
Going back to event chains, will events overlap in a town? For instance, will it always be centaurs in the town coming, or will it be pirates occasionally, or whatever? And will you see like the same boss monster at the end? Will it always have the same name? Is it going to be dynamic?
So it varies greatly from event chain to event chain. Some of them where, there'll be a town that centaurs attack. That town is only attacked by centaurs because globally that location is only surrounded by centaurs, and so it really only makes sense. There are events. There's, for example, an event chain that recently went into the game where there's a fort that's out in the wilderness. And nearby there are a number of Grawl that live up in the mountains above it, and there are undead that are filling the swamp down below it. And both of those will attack that location, and different events can kick off that tie to that. If the Grawl take it over, the Grawl are much more intelligent. They do other things based on once they've taken it over. If the undead take it over, they're basically just a giant horde of zombies. And so they just run around eating everything they can get their hands on. And so when they take the fort over, they kind of spread out and start eating like all the rabbits and frogs and ambient life that's in the area. So that's an example of an event chain that has a number of events in it that can have different things that happen with it. When the game initially releases, there are a lot of areas that are going to have very specific event chains that happen there, and you will see those again eventually. If you hang out in the same map forever, you are going to see the events over and over again. The idea is that they need to not happen so frequently that you feel like there's the same content just happening all the time. There needs to be enough so each time you play through the map, you feel like you are experiencing different things, and the game world really is changing. One of the things that we're going to do is as soon as the game releases from day one, we'll be focused on adding more content into each one of those maps, and we'll be going back and slowing down how often each one of the events run. And replacing it with other events that also can run. So every time you play through a map with a new character, you could end up stumbling across 10, 20, 30 events in a map that you never knew were there before. So you always have incentive to go back and play new characters and see this world that keeps growing and changing all the time.
Thank you.
Yep. I believe this is probably going to be the last question. Go ahead.
Thanks for taking my question. My question is about tanking in Guild Wars 2. You said you're getting rid of the Holy Trinity. One of my deals in Guild Wars 1, I never understood how aggro worked. I felt like I couldn't actually hold anything if I was trying to tank. Will a certain classes be better at tanking? Will they take less damage than an elementalist, let's say? Will a warrior take less damage? And is there a way for you to get an enemy to stick on you?
So yeah, 2 answers to that. First off, the aggro system in Guild Wars 2 is extremely simple. It's basically if you go up and attack a creature, that creature will focus on the nearest player to them that they are fighting. And so what that means is that basically everyone can fill that tank role if you want, because they can be the guy who runs up and starts getting involved while somebody else backs out, and they can go in and out and be replacing each other constantly. With that basic aggro system, it allows everybody to fill that role. There are professions that are squishier than others. There are the lighter armors than the heavier armors. The difference is that we give each one of those professions the ability to do different things. So like an elementalist, it tends to be a pretty squishy class. They also have the earth elemental attunement that they can swap over to, which gives them a lot of abilities when they're up close to take a lot of damage and hang tough. So what you can be doing is you can be hanging in the middle and you can be using air magic, you can roll back and you can unleash a lot of fire magic and be in range, and you could run up front and get your buddy out of there while you switch to earth magic and hold down the front line for a little while and then back out again. And parties can be constantly doing this and swapping with one another. And what we've seen is we've actually play tested a lot of dungeons, and dungeons are 5-man content. And we've play tested them with 5 elementalists, we play tested them with 5 warriors, we play tested them with 5 thieves. And what you end up seeing is that people dynamically work together and are able to bounce back and forth, so everybody is constantly changing the things they're doing and reacting to what's going on in combat. When somebody gets in trouble, they basically dodge roll out of there, and then somebody else comes in and kind of fills that spot for a little while, and they bounce back and forth, as opposed to basically, you are the tank, you stand in the front line forever. Instead, everybody's working together, filling all the different roles as they need them in the party.
All right, I'm afraid that's going to have to be the last question. I want to thank everyone for coming.